So many of us, we walk around like, I'm a man, and it is not true. We act like children, and certainly not taking care of your health and then paying a massive price for it. That is childish. It's not smart. It's not emotionally healthy. It doesn't matter how much ass you can kick or how much you can deadlift or any of those things. Okay? If you got something that needs to get done, go do it. Go get the test. Go whatever it is.
Another year or two, and you would have had cancer, Ted. Those were the words that a gastroenterologist told me just a month ago. What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of the Legendary Life Podcast. I'm your host, Ted Rice, and I'm a health expert. Been in the business for 23 years. I'm a coach to entrepreneurs, executives, other high-performing professionals, and you're listening to the Legendary Life Podcast, where we break down science-based information on how to lose fat, prevent disease, and live a longer, healthier, legendary life. And today is a Real Talk Friday, and we get real on Real Talk Fridays, hence the name. And so I want to share this. I've been wanting to share it for a while, but I've had a lot to do, had a lot going on. So I was recently told that. Okay, recently told that. And I want to have this conversation with you because so many of us, there's this narrative going on in the world right now, not in the world, in the American world, mostly the American world. Love America, but sometimes the people not so much. And there's this narrative going on that, hey, if you get sunlight, if you eat real food, if you exercise, you'll never have heart disease or cancer or any of these things. And today I'm just going to share my story, my personal story, and why I think that's a bunch of bullshit. And not because I think it, because I've experienced it. So I know we have a lot of new listeners right now, so I want to give you some background on me. So people look at me and look at my photos, but they don't know the whole story. And certainly I'm not going to, back when I was one, right? We're not going to go down that road and have that long conversation, right? Year by year, here's a breakdown of my life. We're not going to do that right now because, unless you want to go to bed, but unless you need someone to tell you a story to make you go to sleep. But I do want to tell you this. So I've been very active my whole life. I only had a spat of being, or a spat, is that the right word? I don't know. I had a period of time where I almost was obese, right? I was very overweight, borderline obese in my mid 30s, pulled out of it my late 30s. Actually, no, more like early 40s. And so for the most of I've been when I was a kid, I was super active. My dad told me a story. He's like, Ted, I remember you were just like running around, but you tripped and like fell into some bushes. And then you just popped back up and just started running like you didn't skip a beat. That was me. And even as a teenager, I practiced martial arts. I was super active, riding around my neighborhood. I've done a lot of exercise and have the wear and tear on my joints on my x-rays to prove it. So I've been active my whole life, but, was I healthy? I mean, certainly healthier than some folks. Now I started smoking marijuana about 16, and then from 18 to about 28 or so, I was maybe 27, 28, I was smoking almost daily. So, and when I was a personal trainer in Miami Beach I started as a personal trainer when I was 22 years old. And during my 20s, I trained people who owned clubs in Miami Beach. And I was young. I was extremely handsome. I was a good looking guy at the time. Didn't get me as far as you might think, by the way. Communication skills were severely lacking, as were business skills. But my point in telling you this is like I was going out, I was drinking alcohol, doing ecstasy or Molly or whatever they're calling it, MDMA, methylene deoxy, methamphetamine. So I was doing a lot of things that weren't healthy. I was not sleeping so well. But in all, I've been pretty lean my whole life, exercised my whole life, and that makes up for a lot compared to people who haven't, even, who don't have the drug use history that I've had, right? And also, I forgot to add all the alcohol I used to drink as well. And I tell you this to put some perspective on things, to say, I'm not like, my parents didn't raise me like, son, we're only going to eat grass-fed beef, wild-caught salmon, and organic nuts and fruits and vegetables in this house. No, I didn't grow up like that. But I was fairly healthy, healthier than most. But still, I had this polyp growing in my colon that the gastroenterologist, and I saw one of the best guys in Brazil, guy's super knowledgeable. He's the one that went on TV, on national TV, talking about Chad. Oh, I forgot what his name was. The Black Panther actor, Chad, I want to say Warwick, but I can't remember his last name. Black Panther, Wakanda forever. In case you watched that movie. I'm a big Marvel superhero movie fan, by the way. So he told me, hey, listen, you were 1 or 2 years away from having cancer, because not only did they find a polyp, not only did he find a polyp, he found a gigante, so a giant polyp. I had a giant polyp growing in my colon. And is this TMI yet? So this is the real talk, people. What do you expect when you click on a title that says Real Talk Friday, right? So, but seriously though, we need to have this conversation, because part of caring for yourself isn't just eating healthy foods, isn't exercising, isn't getting good quality sleep. It's not meditating or gratitude journaling or taking your supplements. All that stuff's important, but use modern medicine, okay? Get your checkups, get your blood chemistry, get the tests that you need. I was 1 or 2 years away from cancer. Oh my Jesus. That would have been a very different life. And let me put some perspective on this for you. Let me tell you the story. My dad was spectacularly, well, he was healthy for a while when he was, when I was really young. I forget what age he was, but when I was really young, when I was, 3, 4, 5, he would exercise. He belonged to Bali's, if that's something that you remember. And that was a health club that was popular in Miami and probably around the US at the time, who played racquetball. But then he got spectacularly unhealthy, right? He married my stepmom. They both were workaholics. They were both alcoholics. They would, so gross, right? My dad loved, he was a great cook, fantastic cook, got me into Asian cuisine, turned me on to Asian cuisine. The first time I had Chinese food, he took me, when I was a young boy, taught me how to eat with chopsticks, had sushi with him, had Thai food in my teens when there was a Thai place in Miami, when that became popular when I was a teenager. And but he loved to grill his steak, and he loved to smoke. He loved smoked meats. He loved smoking steaks and then cooking them. He had all these smoked chips and everything. So he had this lifestyle that, and he drank a lot of alcohol, ended up getting obese when he was in his 40s. Actually, let's back up a little bit. He ended up getting colon cancer, and he got it at a very young age. I can't remember exactly. Maybe 45, something like that. About the same age, I'm 44, and the gastroenterologist said I was a year or two away from having cancer. It was like I was on, if you would look at my dad and me and compare us and compare our lifestyles, the guy was spectacularly unhealthy. So why did I end up that way? Well, one of the things that doctors have been telling me for a while, but didn't really make a big deal out of it until I moved to Thailand, actually, in 2018, had a doctor say, what? Your dad had colon cancer in his 40s? You need to be screened 10 years before whatever age your dad got colon cancer. You need to have your first colonoscopy 10 years before that. And I said, well, yeah, I'm 41 now. So that's not happening. And people have just been on me since I've been going to doctors, and checking up my health in the past few years. And I didn't do it, right? Because in America, it's a lot of money. when we first moved to Thailand, Giselle and I, we weren't doing well financially. That's for another story I'll have to tell you sometime, because we ended up doing really well. There's a happy ending to it, but we were struggling financially, and I just kept putting it off. And finally, 2021, after getting COVID and ending up in Brazil and then getting COVID, I finally went and got my colonoscopy, and I got it from a guy who is the cream of the crop here in Brazil. Brazil has some great doctors. I mean, I'm sure most countries have great doctors somewhere, but there's some really exceptional doctors in Brazil. And so I had this colonoscopy finally. And I thought, to be honest, I'm like, man, I'm so healthy. I've been exercising my whole life. I got a little out of shape there. And yeah, I had a bit of drug use and definitely too much, smoking too much marijuana. But come on, I've been pretty healthy. And obviously I've got a history of trauma and stress and, surviving these terrible events and, but overall I felt pretty confident that it was going to come back clean. Like, oh, I'm just going to do it. But I had a giant polyp that was a year or two away from getting cancer. What the hell? And so I want to tell you that, listen, I have a lot of problems with modern medicine, especially in the States where it becomes more it's super politicized now, where it's like mask versus no mask and vaccines versus no vaccines. And, I'm not gonna get into I'm not gonna open up that can of worms, but I want to tell you, look, the future of health care, and I don't mean the business of healthcare, but healthcare for you and healthcare for me, we've got to use everything at our fingertips. Technology works, folks. Science works, folks. Sounds weird, works, folks. It works. It works. Getting tests like stress tests and echocardiograms and having colonoscopies and getting your blood pressure checked and having your blood markers analyzed, it works. Do not skip it. Do not be like me. And one of the things that this doctor, I forget his name because these Brazilian names, it's not, I grew up in Miami. There's a lot of Spanish people there, Hispanic people there is what I should say, not from Spain, but Hispanic, from South America, from the Caribbean. But the Brazilian names they can be very strange. Caetano, right? José, João, right? It's like, what's your name? John? João. They call me Teddy. Teddy. Oi, Teddy. Ted becomes Teddy. So they're kind of tough to remember. So I don't remember his name, but he was just explaining to me a lot of men don't get checked. They don't want, frankly, they don't want things up their butt while they're asleep. Totally understandable. And if I'm honest, one of the reasons why I've been like, oh yeah, do I feel like having being put to sleep and having something put up my butt today? No, right? So, but the thing is, we've got to overcome that. We've got to overcome that stupidity, it's really childlike thinking. Now, I'm not the person that shies away from healthcare or medical doctors or getting tests. In fact, I'm the person that really prefers to go get checked if I'm having a problem. I want to be checked by an expert, by a professional. But still, I had some hesitancy on taking action around this, but I finally got around to it. And whoa, what a difference in my life that it made. My dad, by the way, just to go back to his story, he had colon cancer. That's the short story. The long story is that he had colon cancer. He didn't go through radiation, didn't need chemotherapy, but he had surgery and they successfully removed it. But they sewed up his anus, and I'm going to tell you the TMI details here. They sewed up his anus, and he used a colostomy bag. They opened up I guess it's called a fistula. It's on his abdomen, and he had a bag that was attached to this thing that he'd have to change for the rest of his life until he died at the almost 77 years old. And he had to live his life like that, and it took a huge toll. And in my dad's defense, he had a terrible lifestyle, but just the people my dad's age, they weren't they weren't part of the past generations where they maintained their weight. He really was in the obesity when obesity started to explode, and they were making money and eating steak every night and sucking on the fat on these prime. They love the prime steaks, but prime means it's got fattier. It's got more fat in it, right? So I love prime steaks. Work hard, drink a lot of alcohol. And these are risk factors for colon cancer. And very important because one thing I want to talk about, because people have said, not people on Twitter in the comment section, no, doctors have told me, hey, listen, we're not sure how much of it is genetic, how much of it is the lifestyle that you led with your dad, but he got it early. You have a high chance of getting it early. And look at me, I freaking nearly had it. And I could have been the same way that my dad was. And man, if you know anything about my life, I've had enough bad things happen to me in life, right? Crazy mother who ended up dying in a car accident at 14, my brother, the kidnapping and murder, all this stuff, my sister committing suicide. Do I really need to be changing a colostomy bag every day? Hell no. But I was heading that direction and I didn't know it. And the story that I told myself was, hey, I'm super healthy. I can put it off. I'm super healthy. I can put it off. Maybe I'm not super healthy, but I'm lean. I've got veins on my abs. At least at that time I did, right? I've kind of lost them, but now I'm getting them back, folks. Getting them back. But that's the direction I was heading in. Because once, here's the thing. Now he explained the names of the different stages of polyp growth, but what he said was, look, you were like a step away from, there's like 4 steps, and you were a step away from this turning into cancer. Another year or 2 would have been cancer. And once it's cancer, what they do is they cut the entire section of your intestine out. And I'm not clear about the results of the surgery because I obviously don't have to have it. But if it's extensive enough, you don't get to poop again. As nice as that may sound, well, actually, that's not true. You don't get to use, you have to do it in a bag through your abdomen. Oh man, I do not need that. I saw my dad struggle with that at the end of his life, the last few months of his life, as he began to be able to, as he began to lose the ability to take care of himself. I won't go into the messes, but that happened. But he had an accident one time, and I had to pick the poop up off the floor, right? And I tell you this because it's the stuff that people don't talk about, right? They just say, hey, get your test, get your mammogram, get your colonoscopy, get your, whatever it is. But they don't tell you, nobody's like, I don't believe in using fear all the time, right? Fear drives up stress. But if we're talking about, hey, listen, go and face this thing, go and figure out if you have this thing or not. It's so important because we're afraid to know the answer. But if I would have waited another 2 years, I would have been telling the story of, hey, I'm the fitness guy who got colon cancer because my dad had it early. And, people have been telling me I was going to have it. I had a high chance of getting it early, but I thought I was super healthy and I got it anyway because either the genes were there or that we shared enough of a lifestyle that ended up, right? Because my dad ate a ton of smoked meat, a ton of of grilled meat. Oh my gosh. I think about all the carnivore people eating all the meat all the time and the charred meat all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get colon cancer, but processed meat and grilling are both associated with the development of colon cancer. And so let me tell you, I don't eat much meat anymore, and I love a good steak. And I'm in Brazil. I don't know if you've ever been to a Brazilian rodizio, a steakhouse, where it's like, would you like more meat? Here are 8 different types of meat. Would you like some more? You can eat as much meat as you want. Welcome, right? That's how it is in a Brazilian steakhouse. Fogo de chão or porcão, right? So we don't say porcão or fogo de chão. Fogo de chão? No, fogo de chão, right? Just teasing you. But Yeah. So I'm in this place, and I'm actually Florianopolis, Brazil is quite close to Argentina as far as Brazilian cities go, at least major Brazilian cities. And there's some great meat down here. There's cowboys down here called gauchos, big part of the culture. It's funny, it's like Texas. Actually, that makes sense now. Texas do Brasil, right? It's another Brazilian steakhouse chain, popular in the United States. In case you've never heard of it, Texas do Brasil. Do Brasil. Sorry, I'm just into the Portuguese thing. It's just fun. English isn't fun to speak. Portuguese is like fun to speak. It's got like it's got so much like energy to it. English, I'm super comfortable, but it's like anyway. I digress. But the point is this: get your tests. Don't put them off. One of the reasons why I didn't want to do it too, all last year, the COVID, I was planning to do it last year, and I put it off because of COVID. But I forced myself to go and do it, and I'm so glad I did because it didn't save my life. Right? I would have caught it. I'm not such a knucklehead. I am a knucklehead. I do have a thick skull, and I don't do all the right things all the time. But I was planning on doing it. I knew it was important. But yeah, had I waited a bit longer, it would have been a very different story. And let me tell you, watched my dad for decades deal with that. And that would not be something I want to do. Can you imagine what my dad had to go through or what people with a colostomy bag have to go through? I mean, I'm single right now. Imagine like, hey, well, okay, you're getting intimate with your new partner, and it's like, oh, don't mind the bag. In fact, my dad told me it's like made intimacy tough with my stepmom. And the truth is, for him, it was a different time. We can't judge him too harshly. But for me and for you, we live in a time where like people say these things. Go get everything checked. All right. Don't think that you can override, in particular, a genetic disposition to developing cancer just because you're lean and exercise regularly. Even though if you look at what are the risks for getting cancer, sedentary lifestyle is a big one, and certainly your nutrition, being overweight. And so even if you're doing so many of the right things, it may not be enough. And it certainly wasn't in my case. And so as I say this, I want to ask you, like, what is something you've been putting off? What is something, a checkup, a test, something that you can schedule now? Something you've been putting off, you're coming through the 2020 haze that we've all been in, the post-COVID crazy world. We're like, can we just get things back to normal, please? What have you been putting off and what can you schedule? What is something you really need to, no, I got to take the kids to practice. No, freaking let your kids stay home and play video games for a day while you go take care of yourself. What is that thing that you need to do for you? It doesn't even have to be a medical test, but something that has to do with your health, something that you've been putting off. What is that? And that is what I want you to attend to, folks. Listen, people, even the doctors, nobody, I wish a doctor would have sat me down and like, look, you have a high risk of this. I don't care if you're lean and in shape and been in shape for a while. You have a high risk of this. If you don't get this colonoscopy, are you okay with changing your poop bag every day? Are you okay with when you're going to have sex with your partner or your girlfriend or whoever, that you're the poop bag, like you're going to have to deal with the poop bag while having sex? Are you okay with that? Because that's what's going to happen if you roll the dice and you come back positive for cancer. That's going to be your life, changing your poop bag. Because nobody sat me down and had that hard conversation with me. So I can't sit down with you and have it face to face, but I can sit down and have it with you right now. And it's interesting. This is probably more relevant for men than it is women, because women typically, but of course we can't generalize based on gender. We can make big generalizations, but when it comes down to it, there's certainly some women I'm sure aren't doing what they should be doing for their health. But it seems to be more, women get together, they band together, and the whole breast cancer, wear the ribbon and breast cancer awareness. Prostate cancer kills more men than breast cancer kills women, but guys, we don't talk about it. We don't want a finger up our butt. We don't want instruments up our butt, but you've got to get it done. You've got to get it done. You got to grow up. Being an adult is about getting over those I don't want to do it, I don't want a doctor doing things with my butt, right? You got to get the fuck over it. You got to man up. So many of us, we walk around I'm a man, and it's not true. We act like children, and certainly not taking care of your health and then paying a massive price for it. That is childish. It's not smart. It's not emotionally healthy. It doesn't matter how much ass you can kick or how much you can deadlift or any of those things. Okay. If you got something that needs to get done, go do it. Go get the test. Go, whatever it is. And again, if you're a woman and you're in that situation, go get it done. Because the consequence, the fear, look, the colonoscopy wasn't, I'll even tell you. I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to tell you. I woke up during my colonoscopy and they had to give me more. And so I felt like I was like alien, the alien abduction stories from 20 years or 30 years ago or whatever, like the Inoprobe alien abduction story, right? That's what it was like. You're like, well, what the hell's going on? Why am I awake? And then there was an anesthesiologist who put me back to sleep. But they do that on purpose. They just don't want to whack you out with general anesthesia so that I woke up. It was so weird. I woke up finally after it was over and I was fine. It was weird because I thought I was going to feel really bad after the anesthesia. You're not going to be able to drive. Of course, I don't have a car in Brazil, and I wouldn't drive. I wouldn't rent a car in Brazil, at least not in Brasilia. Just take Uber. But it wasn't a problem at all. I left, and it was over, and it was okay. I felt okay. So that's the story I got for you. And again, I want to ask you, what is that thing you've been putting off that has to do with your health that you got to get that stress test done. You got to get that mammogram. You got to get that prostate examined. You got to get the colonoscopy. What is that thing? Set that up, take action on it. And that's what I want you to do after this episode. Start making calls. Start doing whatever it is that you need to do. If you struggle with I don't know what doctor, how do you search for a good doctor? Ask for help. Ask for a recommendation. You must have some type of doctor. Hopefully, ask them for a recommendation. Or if you got friends, ask them for a recommendation. The doctor I found, there's a urologist in Giselle's family, my business partner's family, who, the guy's like a genius, right? He's also very overweight, but when it comes to urology and being a doctor, he's a urologist. He does surgery, just next level smart when it comes to medicine. And he had this great recommendation for a doctor. So ask for help if you need it. Ask for help to make things happen, but make them happen. Do not put things off. You may end up, and I want to tell you this, there might be a point like I was getting close to where there is no going back. Once you pass that point of no return, for example, if that polyp that I had, the giant polyp, so, if that would have turned into cancer, that's a whole new game. There's no going back from that. It's let's cut out part of your intestine, okay? And so if you catch it, preventive medicine, folks, do not pass that point of no return. It certainly isn't worth it. So that's all I've got today. Sorry for the graphic. Actually, I'm not sorry, really. I say apologies because I want to kind of soften the blow. But you know what? I'm glad that I didn't pull punches and told you how it is, because sometimes they don't tell us. Sometimes we need someone to tell it to us straight. And that's what I try to do here on Real Talk Fridays. So thank you so much for listening to this episode today. And if you haven't subscribed, I highly recommend you subscribe. And I love doing these Real Talk Friday episodes. They allow me to go a bit deeper into my story, what I've learned, what I'm going through, maybe what's happening in the world, or, this particular story I shared with you today. And again, if you want to keep the conversation going, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. It's my favorite social media platform. So go and hit me up on Twitter, Ted_Rice. That's at TED_RYCE. And stay tuned for Monday, where we're going to be talking about the right way to combine cardio and strength training. And it will be with yours truly. It'll just be you and I having a conversation. I'll break down the science. So if you ever wonder, like, what's the right way to put the cardio and the strength training together for the best results, you are going to learn way more than you thought maybe you wanted to. So that is it for me. Have an amazing weekend. Love you lots. Take care of yourself. We deserve the best version of you. And that is certainly, we don't get the best version unless you're taking care of yourself. So please do that. Do that for your loved ones. Do it for your children. Do it for your family. Whoever depends on you, whoever is important in your life, they're depending on you too. Your relationship means a lot to them. So take care of yourself. We need you. We need more people who are operating at a high level, right? We don't need you to be struggling with more than what is already going on. So that's it for me. Love you lots. Have an amazing weekend and speak to you on Monday.